Hello there, it's 2200 hours in Banjul. This is GRTS News broadcasting for viewers in the Gambia and around the world. In the headlines tonight, President Barrow left Banjul for the extraordinary summit of ECOWAS heads of state on Burkina Faso. The Gambia Armed Forces patrol the country's border to maintain peace and order following recent clashes between the Senegalese-backed economic forces and the separatist MFDC movement of Casamance. The Immigration Department concludes countrywide tour of structures under its purview to gather first-hand information about the state of affairs of its personnel. Away from home, ECOWAS issued a statement condemning the recent foil coup in Guinea-Bissau. And France says it will decide with EU partners on a future military presence in mid-February following expulsion of French ambassador from the country by the military. Well, these and much more coming ahead in tonight's edition of GRTS News. Many thanks for joining us. Welcome to the news with me, Fatu Eli Kamaloshi. Now, His Excellency President Adama Barrow has left Banjul this evening for the extraordinary summit of ECOWAS on Burkina Faso, scheduled to take place on Sunday in Accra, Ghana. Meanwhile, the African Union has suspended Burkina Faso a week after a fraction of the army announced the removal of President Roch-Kabore as West Africa and the United Nations head for talks with the coup leaders. The AU 15-member Peace and Security Council on Monday said it had voted to suspend Burkina Faso's participation in all AU activities until the effective restoration of constitutional order in the country. Meanwhile, following a remarkable campaign in the Africa Cup of Nations, the Scorpions have finally returned home, heads up after its exit in the quarterfinal in the hands of the host Cameroon. Straight to the State House, the Scorpions were accorded a befitting welcome by President Adama Barrow, who commended the players for taking the name of the country to another level in the world of soccer. Farmer Baji has the details.
It's now customary for athletes to meet the president whenever they return from campaigns representing the country in international competitions. After a heroic performance in their maiden participation in the AFCON, Scorpions visited the country's highest office to meet the president. During the engagements, both President Adama Barrow and Youth and Sports Minister Bakari Badji apologized to the team for the delay in their return, while commending them for making the Gambia proud.
The minister said we apologize to you for the delays. It's unfortunate. Sometimes you contract these agencies. The last minute you have some disappointment. But definitely that is not the political because your performance is a respected performance in Cameroon. We were the old one among the West African countries. But today you have changed it. And your performance, we are watching you, your performance was good, you are brave, you are courageous, and this would not have happened if you don't have love for your country. You have love for your country, that's why you came to play for the Gambia. And you raised our flag. Very, very happy.
We came just to assure the players and assure the public that as a government, as an NCC, in collaboration with the GFL, we will always do what we believe is the best thing. And this instant also is the same thing. It was done out of goodwill and chartering a flight, and everything went well when we were going. And when you're coming, we had a hitches. We definitely don't expect or never expected it to happen that way. So I want to take this opportunity to apologize to the players for the delay that has happened in our return, and also to apologize to the fans, because there was a lot of preparation that was being done by the fans to welcome the Scorpions. Unfortunately, we had to arrive here at night when so many of them have gone back to their homes.
The president further encouraged the Scorpions to keep up the momentum ahead of the 2023 qualifiers, while assuring them of his government's support at all times.
We assure you that we will continue to work with you, we will continue to support you with limited resources. make sure that this support will continue so that we can qualify the game, so that we can also perform better. I think the support is very, very important. But no doubt that the political will is there, and we have a youth minister who is also very much committed to youth matters, not sports alone, but youth matters in general, and football in particular. So you have made us proud. You are welcome back home. I think everybody is proud of you. Congratulations.
The Gambia Football Federation President Lamin Kaba Bajo thanked the government for the support to the team, saying preparations ahead of the next Africa Cup of Nations has begun.
We want to assure you and the government that we, the football house, will do everything possible to maintain the momentum. As we landed Banjul last night, we started work on preparations for Cote d'Ivoire 2023, and eventually also Guinea 2025, and Your Excellency, we want to assure that we do everything possible to be in the next World Cup 2026. That's our target, and these boys are hungry for that, and then inshallah we could do it like any other country. We've taken off, and then we continue. The momentum will only be, cannot afford to come down.
Team captain Pamodu Jan also commended the government for supporting what was a successful campaign for the Scorpions, and promised supporters of their dedication to ensure qualification for the next AFCON.
We set the bar high, so now it's just every year we have to qualify. That's gonna be the aim, and we love it there. So we want to be there every year. So we will work hard for it. It's just a matter of keep believing, what we can do in the qualifiers. We see the support, the love, so it's crazy. We receive so many messages, they appreciate us, For us, we cannot say nothing but to say big thank you to all Gambians, who came out yesterday, who were supporting during the game, after the game, We cannot say much but to say a big thank you to all the Gambians.
Players will now return to their various clubs after a heroic AFCON participation, while they set their sight on the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations. Farmer Abaji, GRTS News.
Well, to shed more light on the gallant Scorpions and their performance in the African Cup of Nations game in Cameroon, we're now joined live in our studios by the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports, Mr. Bakari Baji, who is in fact seated with us here. Honorable Minister, it's great to have you on the news.
Thank you, Fatu. Good to be here.
Right. Of course, we'll have to start off with this particular one because the incredible performance of the National Scorpions has been tainted with this delay in their return. What caused the delay and how were you able to facilitate their travel back home?
Like you said, it was some great moments, but eventually it appears to be tainted by this issue of the delay. It wasn't intentional. There was no lack of commitment or incompetence or whatever. As an NCC, what we did is when we wanted to charter flights to take players, like we've done in the past during the qualifiers, and eventually looked at the company. Actually, there were so many other companies that bid for it, and then we gave it to a company that we believe reasonably was the best. And eventually they came in because there's the same flight that took everyone out to Douala, but the return there was some challenges, and it was purely an issue of a breach of a contract because government paid all the monies that we were supposed to pay to the company, and they did the first leg. When it comes to the second leg, there was a problem. And our contract states, like regulation is, you have to leave 48 hours after you exit. So that was supposed to be Monday. So we notified them Saturday when we exited the tournament that we want to leave Monday, and they gave us a time that we'll depart at 12. And that's what we communicated to the fans and to everyone. But come Monday, the flight didn't come, and we tried to get in touch with them. They gave us that we needed until 3 o'clock to depart. Then it never happened. Then they said the next day, Tuesday, it didn't happen. So this is what exactly happened. But as the government, by Tuesday, when we knew that they were going to probably fail us again, we started making other options to fly the team back.
But by this time, were you already communicating exactly how things are transferring with this transporting agency to the Scorpions as well?
Yeah. Because, well, as an NCC or a ministry, we don't really deal with the players directly. In most of the instances, we communicate through the GFF, and the GFF is part of the NCC. So all of us are aware of what was happening, and that they have communicated to the players that we will not be able to leave on Monday, but we leave on Tuesday. And then, yes, Tuesday we left, but it was late, and before even in midday or so, I think this video came up, and then everything kind of turned out to be a negative.
Yeah, and talking about that video, in fact, in specific, they're also claiming that they have not received bonuses paid to them. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct, and. Truthfully, I try to avoid talking about this issue of money because our perception and the team's players have always said that they're doing this for the country. So I don't think money should be an issue, but there is nothing like bonus that was not paid to them. They specifically mentioned the issue of the $10,000, and the $10,000 we've said it was clear. It was a question of when we get to the quarterfinals, how much are we going to get from the CAF money that they give for reaching the quarterfinals? And we agreed, and this is how we announced it at the consultation. We've agreed that we will give each player $10,000 from the CAF money. And like I said, the CAF money comes in at the end of the tournament. It's not immediate. But in terms of government or NCC payment of match bonuses per match that they play, that has been fully settled for every match that they have won, including the qualification into the round of 16.
So you don't owe them any money?
No, we don't. I mean, that's why I was surprised when the players said that. And that's why I wouldn't really want to generalize this to the Scorpions as a team. I think it was maybe two players that brought the issue of the money. But no, there is nothing like own. $10,000 is from CAF money. When CAF money comes, it will be given.
Now, moving forward, how do we build on the successes of the Gambia's incredible AFCON that happened, of course, is happening in Cameroon?
Oh yeah, that's our focus now. Like you had the president of the Gambia Football Federation told everyone at the State House. The idea now is focusing on the next AFCON, which is coming up next year in 2023 in Ivory Coast. And we're playing our preliminary rounds in March, and then eventually get into the proper tournament. But we would continue to do what we're supposed to do as a government, and I believe the GFF will also continue to do their thing, which is keep the team together, prepare for the preliminary rounds, and then eventually get into the proper tournament. But our intention as a country is to, this is the first time we want to keep appearing in AFCON anytime there is a tournament.
How would you describe the Gambia's dream debut? How would you describe this in this AFCON?
No, it was a great thing. I mean, we look at our story, it was an incredible story.
Yeah.
We are 150 in FIFA ranking, and this is the first time that a country ranked that low qualified to AFCON. And then Gambia, unfortunately, has been the only West African country that has never participated in AFCON, and this is the first time. So we started off topping the group and then coming into the tournament, playing big countries and defeating them and getting to the quarterfinals. That is an incredible thing, and that's why we always extend our gratitude, our appreciation to the players for having given it their best to ensure that Gambia reaches at this level.
I mean, we have to be at the back of our mind that we have less than a year or so to go to the next one, right? And so considering everything that has happened around this particular AFCON, I'm sure there are a lot of challenges to solve before we enter that next one. Going forward, what's your assurance for the fans especially, but of course for the Scorpions rather, and the GFF as the Minister of Youth and Sports?
No, well, as far as we are concerned, all of us as stakeholders, Ministry, GFF, and the National Sport Council, everyone that was part of this process, we would continue to do the things that are expected. And our belief is that Gambia will definitely make it up, because we know we have quality players, we have a good management, we have a good coach, and that collaboration will continue to be there. And there will be greater things to come for Gambian football.
Are we expecting that the team will still be intact?
That's what we expect. I mean, I don't think there's going to be any distractions, anything that would probably jeopardize the relationship. The players, like I said, majority of the players are focused on getting the results, and I think that's the most important thing.
Very well, Honourable Minister. We're looking forward to the next AFCON.
Thank you.
Well, that was the Honourable Minister of Youth and Sports there, Bakari Baji, talking to us. And now, moving on, protecting sovereignty following the recent clash between the Senegalese-backed economic forces and the separatist MFDC movement of Casamance, the Gambia Armed Forces have been patrolling the borders to maintain peace and order. Our correspondent in the North Bank region, Famara Kanyi, recently traveled with the army to the border communities of Kampa, Balen and Funtok to gauge the level of security in the areas close to the Senegalese border, and he prepared this report.
To go out with the men of the Gambia Armed Forces on a patrol to the borders. Operation code name is Ula Kokon, which means we are all the same. This is expected to be a peaceful operation in which we are going to go some kilometers inland to see whether those border communities are safe and secured.
In their midst are some of the highly trained soldiers and officers drawn from different units and branches of the National Army. Every one of them in the ranks is armed to the maximum. These lads are combat-minded. Part of their activities includes routine border patrols.
The mandate of the armed forces is to protect the
Lieutenant Colonel Omar Bojang is commanding the team. GRTS is accorded an exclusive access to move with them for some kilometers inland in the places presumed by many as highly unsafe. We took off from the 4th Infantry Base in Kanilai. It was already 1300 when temperatures in Foni is at its worst. The recent clash between the Senegalese-backed economic forces and the MFDC separatist movement in Casamance left fear and anxiety in some settlements along the border. In the village of Kappa, for instance, about 10 kilometers away from separatist control zones, Senabu Bojang is one of the women who fled with her family for safety.
When I
saw the Senegalese troops in my village with guns, I informed the rest of the household. Quickly, we fled to the neighboring village. Almost 2 weeks after the incident, her village is now safe thanks to the Gambia Armed Forces.
As I can confidently tell you, we have been conducting both day and night patrols. The place is safe, the country is free. There is no rebel or separatists in our sovereignty, in our country, and they have all moved back to their bases. And also, the other thing that I want to tell you is that there are no landmines.
The army has intensified its operations along the border. They are building confidence and reassuring communities of safety and lasting peace. In the village of Balen, which is the closest to the separatist control zones, the presence of the Gambia Armed Forces is already fruitful, as residents are going about their normal businesses. In a meeting at the village square, Lieutenant Colonel Yoro Ene Jallo, Director of Operations at the Gambia Armed Forces, reassured the community of the Army's resolve to protect the territorial integrity of the country.
Your freedom of movement, your security, your safety, personal safety of your lives and your property will also be guaranteed by the government of the Gambia and the Gambia Air Forces.
On the mission is Honorable Amul Nyasi, the National Assembly member for Foni Kansala. In an interview, he told GRTS that security of the borderline is a priority.
The bottom line is economic forces are not only several. You have Nigeria, you have Ghana. So if for whatever reason the mission feels that Foni needs a deployment of the economic forces, we will not say don't deploy economic forces, but we will say give us the right forces, that we will be comfortable, that we know they are here to keep the peace and security.
As opposed to the widely held beliefs of many, the border is safe and secured. But for those on the sidelines, any move to replace the Senegalese-backed economic troops will serve as a temporal solution and could perhaps lead to lasting peace. For the news, I am Famarakani.
And now, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice on Wednesday presided over a roundtable donor briefing organized by the National Human Rights Commission with stakeholders and donor agents. The objective is to mobilize funding for the Commission for effective implementation of its strategic plan. Baba Sila was there and filed in this report.
Placed by the government with approval from the National Assembly, the National Human Rights Commission continues to carry on mandate with an independent record since its formation in 2017. Its creation as an independent Human Rights Commission to investigate, promote, and protect the fundamental human right for all is the first which has a terrible human rights record under former President Jammeh. For the first time since its formation as the watchdog for human rights, this critical round donor briefing is being convened to mobilize resources for the effective implementation of the Commission's 5-year strategic plan from 2021 to 2025.
The chairperson of the commission, Emmanuel Daniel Diouf, is greatly appreciative of works being done and the political will by the government in establishing a human rights commission as a vanguard for human rights.
We had to start building a secretariat by recruiting the key staff, develop working tools and processes to operationalize the commission. It was not easy. In fact, it was very challenging. Gradually, we were able to recruit key secretariat staff in the first 7 months of our existence. Today, from the 5 commissioners that set up the commission, I am glad to say that we have now 37 staff with 4 key directorates, and we are still growing.
The 5-year strategic plan, according to the chairperson, will enable the Commission to effectively carry out its mandate with a clear vision to achieve its goals. The United Nations Resident Coordinator Serafin Wakana delivered a statement on behalf of the UN system in the Gambia, highlighting the UN's commitment to the promotion and protection of human rights.
The 3 pillars of the UN system, the human rights, development, and peace and security, are interlinked and mutually reinforcing. And we continue to promote all these 3 pillars, built squarely and explicitly on the principles set out in the UN Charter.
The Attorney General and Minister of Justice and the Deputy Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Finance all expanded on the significance of the Human Rights Commission in democratic processes.
Since the inception of the National Human Rights Commission, they have quickly become a very important and strong pillar in our democratization process. Of course, democracy comprises of various indicators. Human rights, rule of law is one of them. But human rights by its nature is one of the indicators in a democratic process.
Despite its relative infancy, the Commission has registered several milestones, making it amongst the most trusted institutions in the country by both government and partners, members of the public and the international community. To achieve such a reputation, the National Human Rights Commission has been heavily supported by the government along with key development partners, including the UN system in the Gambia, the African Union, and most recently, the British High Commission.
During this critical round donor conference, officials comprised of civil society representatives, donors, and other relevant partners will critically discuss the general overview of the Commission functions and mandates to build an effective and independent established by the government with approval from the National Assembly.
And now over to a press release which reads, this year, the Judiciary will be holding its annual ceremony, marking the opening of the legal year on Sunday, the 6th February 2022. The annual event is a time when the Judiciary takes stock and reflects on the challenges and the way forward in ensuring the dispensation of quality justice. The activities marking the legal year will commence on Sunday, the 6th of February 2022, with a ceremony at the Law Courts Complex in Independence Drive, Banjul, under the leadership of His Lordship, the Chief Justice, the Honorable Justice Hassan B. Jallow. The legal year will be opened by His Excellency President Adama Barrow. There will be speeches by the Honorable Chief Justice, the Honorable Attorney General, and the President of the Gambia Bar. The occasion will be graced by numerous dignitaries, including the Vice President, Speaker of the National Assembly, Cabinet Ministers, and members of the Diplomatic Corps. There will be a series of activities from the 7th to the 11th of February to commemorate the occasion. These include a call to the bar ceremony for graduates of the Gambia Law School on Monday, meeting of Chief Justice, Minister of Justice and Minister of Regional Government and Lands with the presidents of the district tribunals and regional governors. This will be followed by a 2-day training session for judges and magistrates on sentencing guidelines, a meeting of Sentencing Council, and a 1-day conference on women, children, and the law, which is designed to discuss the challenges that women and children face in contact with the justice system. It is expected that the condition will contribute to bridging groups in the law, improving the machinery of justice, and strengthening the capacity of justice sector, staff, and building building links of cooperation with stakeholders in the justice process. The release ends. Now, the Gambia Immigration Department has concluded its countrywide tour. The goal of the annual exercise was to gather first-hand information about structures and challenges of personnel on postings for possible intervention. Aissatou Jata Gassama was with the tour party and filed in this report.
An annual event of the Gambia Immigration Department geared towards knowing the realities affecting the welfare of its men and women, particularly those posted out of the city. Brusubi and the airport immigration installations were the last port of call for the West Coast region. At the Brusubi immigration, ASI Mohamed Enzali and Eso Mayamajane both expressed their constraints and achievements, which he attributed to the cooperation between them and the sister forces.
We don't have manpower. Since I took over from 303, that was in 2019, there are many transfers from Brusubi without no replacement.
Here, the environment is conducive. The men here are very hardworking, and they are very disciplined.
At the Banjul International Airport, the GID director visited the head of civic aviation for a brief meeting before meeting his officers.
The standards that are set and maintained at the airport here is second to none. Most of us has traveled extensively, and we have seen how operations of airports are being conducted. If the Yiboyang is not a strong leader, is not a professional leader, this airport would not have been at the state that we are finding.
Immigration is very critical in that they play a key role in the delivery of a critical service to our passengers, both on arrival and departure, because their performance determines whether the passengers have a pleasant experience or unpleasant experience. Because if the processing, which universally, according to ICAO standards, is recommended to be no more than 2 minutes per passenger, is not met, it creates in a backlog and delay. And when you have congestion, then the passengers don't have a good memory of their destination. But fortunately, since 2000, we've always commended immigration for meeting and, in fact, doing better than the 2 minutes.
We need IT personnel more than everybody, because in here, all we use is computer. So we want you to consider our people. Transfer is part of our job, but I'm also seeking you to at least recommend our people, because we have trained them, and to train them up to this level and you take them and bring new ones, it will also be very difficult for us to go and train them also to this capacity.
I will also commend first my officers for comporting themselves and the maturity and the professionalism that they are operating at the airport. Your coming today here, to me, we are very proud, because it's a sign of a motivation.
The Kanafi municipality, Senegambia and Godu immigration post were also visited for a quick interaction. As usual, there was a quarter guard and inspection parade, plus the meeting of officers who lamented their challenges hampering operation. The entourage then proceeded to Kairaba immigration, accompanied by a commissioner of Kanafi municipality, Suleiman Kujabi. Here, the newly constructed building for the GID office in Kairaba was inspected. Officers were impressed with the work, as space was a constraint. Now that the DG wrapped up his tour of immigration posts and installations across the country, the hope and expectation is that he will quickly intervene in addressing the challenges. For the news, I am Aissatou Jata Gassama.
Well, that was Aissatou Jata there, and with that we take a quick break. News beyond our borders come right after. Stay.
My dear, how come you are constantly on your phone texting? You must have lots of credit.
Credit? All I need is $5.
With the AfriCell SMS Express service, you can send 250 SMSs for $5 only. All you need to do is send SUB to 7050 for $5 only, and you can benefit from 250 SMSs valid for 7 days and enjoy texting.
Where AfriCell goes, nobody dares to follow.
Double the data, double the fun, only on AfriMoney.
Buzz Bundle. To enjoy the Buzz Bundle on AfriMoney, dial *777# and double your data for as low as $10 and get 80 megabytes. And also, receive 3 GB of data for only $150. There's more. Just dial *777# to find out.
All bundles are valid for 7 days. To cash in, visit our nearest AfriMoney agent.
AfriMoney. Send money anywhere, anytime.
Welcome back. Now, there have been reports of gunfire in the capital, Guinea-Bissau, near a government compound where a cabinet meeting was being held. It is not clear who was behind the gunshots. A security source said the people inside the building have been shot. Others are clouding that 2 people were shot. There are no confirmations on who the deceased are. West African Regional Bloc ECOWAS, in a statement, has condemned the incident. Guinea-Bissau has experienced several coups d'etats and attempted coups since it gained independence in 1974. And now France says it will decide with EU partners on a future military presence in Mali by mid-February. This after Mali's military rulers expelled the French ambassador from the country, giving him 72 hours to leave. The French envoy was expelled following comments attributed to the French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le on Friday. The Foreign Minister has said Mali's transitional government was illegitimate and out of control, remarks military leaders has described as hostile and outrageous. This comes amid escalating tension between the West African state and its European partners following 2 coups. Last week, French Defense Minister says French troops will not stay in Mali if the price was too high. Meanwhile, the ruling junta in Mali has called on Denmark to withdraw a contingent of troops deployed to the West African nation as part of its international counter for FAMISM fears. The junta, which took power in 2020, claims the deployment of about 90 out of more than 100 troops had taken place without its consent. Details in the CGTN report.
January drew to an end. Denmark expressed its intention to start pulling its troops out of Mali. Denmark had sent 105 military personnel to Mali on January 18th to join a European Special Forces mission known as Takuba that was set up to help Mali tackle armed groups. It said its troops had deployed after a clear invitation from Mali, but the Malian government said it was surprised by the Danish presence because a decision had yet to be made on a request from Denmark to deploy troops. Denmark's decision to withdraw its troops now comes amid tensions between Mali and its international partners, including regional bodies and the European Union, which threatened to sanction Mali after the military government failed to organize elections following 2 coups. Tensions have also escalated over disputed allegations of deployment of Russian mercenaries to Mali. French Defense Minister Florence Parly said on Saturday that French troops would not stay in Mali if the price was too high, while French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian called Mali's junta out of control. Mali on Monday gave the French ambassador 72 hours to leave the country after describing comments by the French Foreign Minister about its transitional government as hostile and outrageous. The French Foreign Minister has asserted that the European Military Task Force has agreed to draw up plans on how to adjust their campaign, which covers Mali and the wider Sahel region, to changing circumstances. But she said the ministers from the 15 countries involved in the European Special Force were for now united in wanting to maintain the mission. As January drew to an end, Denmark expressed its intention to start pulling its troops out of Mali. Denmark had sent 105 military.
Now, the Tunisian Interior Ministry says it has 4 other terrorist attacks on its territory zone by a 22-year-old woman who was trained by the terrorist organization ISIL in Syria. Now, the individual was arrested at the Tunis Carthage International Airport on January 10 on her return from Turkey. Since 2013, over 3,000 Tunisians have joined ISIL in war zones, including women and children, according to the Interior Ministry. Details in the CGTN report.
The Tunisian Interior Ministry says the suspected terrorist left for Turkey in the summer of 2020 before heading to Syria in 2021 with the help of a Syrian national. In Syria, she joined a terrorist group and began training for suicide bombing. During her stay in Syria, the suspect met with a Tunisian terrorist who planned to provide her with an explosive belt once she returns to Tunisia.
Arresting the Tunisian terrorist girl who came from Syria proves that our intelligence and security services are extremely vigilant. The operation started when she was still abroad. Tunisia is winning the war on terrorism, but needs more effort and means to eradicate this dangerous phenomenon.
Hundreds of Tunisian women and children live in Syrian refugee camps for the families of ISIL members. Some children have lost both parents during the Syrian civil war. Their families in Tunisia are calling for their immediate repatriation.
My daughter joined her husband in Syria. He died while she is now in a refugee camp with her 4 children. I also have a son who is in prison in Syria. He has 2 young daughters. We call on our state to repatriate them.
My daughter and her husband died in Syria, and their 2 children live alone in a refugee camp. The boy is 8 and the girl is 6. They are sick. They did not commit any crime. We want them back to raise them in Tunisia.
Analysts explain that the successive governments have turned a blind eye to this problem. Tunisia has not found a solution for returnees from conflict zones, including ISIL members, as well as their spouses and children.
Many terrorist girls and women were trained in conflict zones on using arms and explosives. They pose a threat to national security and cannot be treated as ordinary people. Terrorists remain dangerous even if they claim otherwise. However, the Tunisian state must deal with their children in a humanitarian manner. The children should not pay for the mistakes of their parents.
Security experts assert that the Tunisian state needs to put in place a special program to deal with hundreds of returnees from ISIL who should be tried and jailed for joining a terrorist organization. However, children need psychological assistance in order to pave the way for social integration. The Interior Ministry revealed that the 22-year-old woman who was arrested last week for planning a suicide bombing on a tourist resort was in contact with a local terrorist. This individual is in jail over involvement in planning terrorist acts against senior state officials in late 2021. Abdel Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
And before we end this newscast, a look at our top stories once again. President Barrow has left Banjul for the extraordinary summit of ECOWAS heads of state on Burkina Faso. The Gambia Armed Forces have been patrolling the country's border to maintain peace and order following recent clashes between the Senegalese-backed economic forces and the separatist MFDC movement of Casamance. The Immigration Department has concluded countrywide tour of structures under its purview to gather first-hand information about the state of affairs of its personnel. Away from home, ECOWAS has issued a statement condemning the recent foil coup in Guinea-Bissau, and France has said that it will decide with EU partners on a future military presence in mid-February following expulsion of French ambassador from the country by the military. Well, that's it for the news. Thanks for the pleasure of your company from myself and the entire news team. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon enough again. Bye for now.